Hi everyone. So in this video I want to go over some of the practical steps about creating your Create Something New project. You have two of them that you're going to do this week, and the idea is you're going to create something that looks like it has a function, whether it's a real function or a made up function, and it's going to be made up from multiple other images. So your first step is probably to head out and get some images. Now it'd be great if you use your own images, but if you don't, then you can, for this project, do some web searches. You do want to look for images that are large in size. So as I hover over the image, I'm getting the pixel size down below. So your image requirement size is an 8x10 with a resolution of 2000, a resolution of 250. So that is an image that has about 2000 by 2500 pixels. So we don't want a small, tiny little object on that big 8x10 background. We want to have something larger. So that means you want to have something that is, as a minimum, 600 pixels. It really kind of depends on if it's just going to be a small object added on like a detail, or if it's something you're trying to get to cover the whole background. If you want it to cover the whole background, it needs to be around 2000 pixels. So the ones I'm hovering over here are pretty large, but none of them are large enough to cover the background. So I'm not looking for one object to cover the background, because I'm going to be filling the background with several objects. So I just wanted to remind you, once you click on an image though, make sure that you click on the View Image option. And if there's a plus sign here, make sure you've clicked on it again, and that way you're now getting the full size of the image. And I'm going to right click and choose Copy, and then go over to Photoshop, and I can do File, New, and choose the option Clipboard. Now make sure you had Photoshop open before you start copying, or else it won't know that you copied something to the clipboard and it won't give you this size. And I'm going to hit Create, and then I'll paste it in. I'll use the keyboard shortcut Control-V, and that pastes in my image. Okay, so I already have a whole bunch of them here. And what I wanted to point out is that if you have an image with a white background, it sometimes is easier to select the background and then inverse the selection than actually trying to select the object. It happens to be that the pictures I was looking for mostly had white backgrounds, but not all of them. So that works out pretty nicely, but I'm assuming that you're going to find some others that have other backgrounds that you have to work a little bit harder with your selections on. So I'm going to select the white here. I'm taking my quick selection tool, and I'm just going around, and I'm going to select all the white areas. Now we'll just switch to quick mask mode for a moment to see how I did. Alright, so I'm missing a spot here, I can see. Now I could touch that up in the quick mask mode. Remember, that would be painting with black. He's going to be making that red, and I'm just doing kind of something fast here. Not even close to perfect, but I'm just trying to do it quickly, and now I'll switch to white so I can touch that up. Alright, so I would ask you guys to go and touch this up in this stage, or you can also do the other option that we talked about, which was the select and mask and smooth out your selection or add a little bit of a feather. But anyway, so now I've selected my white, and I'm going to go up to Select and choose Inverse. And so now I've selected my object, and I'm going to copy it. But the next step is actually I need to create my target image that I'm going to paste all of these in. So I'm going to go to File, New, and this needs to be in inches. So I'm going to create something. I'm going to make mine horizontal, but you don't have to. It could be vertical. I'm going to make mine 10 by 8 with a resolution of 250, and hit Create. And so this is where I'm going to paste it. Control-V, and it pastes this in. It's quite large, which is good. I'd rather have it too large than too small. I am going to use the keyboard shortcut to scale it, which is Control-T. I talked about this in my past videos. And I'm locking the proportion by holding the Shift key down and dragging and making this smaller. And then I'm going to hit the check mark. So that's the process that I would go through with all of these. These happen to be kind of easy ones to select because they have a lot of white background. And so again, I'm selecting the white. I should go over to my quick mask mode, touch it up, and then I'm going to go over to Inverse and copy it and click on my target one, which is this one, and paste it in. So this is pretty small. I'm not going to make it any larger. This is basically the size that I'm going to leave it. I'm going to say the rule is, in terms of making things larger, you could only do it about 10%, about this much before it starts to look bad. So making them smaller. Okay, and then you start pasting and putting all your things together. Like I have my one, if I find it over here, the one that I've already started. Okay, so all of these were a little bit larger. I had to do Control T or edit, transform, make them smaller. Also, some good just shortcuts. Use your move tool to be able to select a layer. Make sure you have auto select on. So let's say I want to work on this one. I just use my move tool to grab it. Now that's the layer that's selected. Control T not only allows me to scale things, but also to rotate. So if I want to move something around, I can adjust it. I have to hit the commit bar. Another good keyboard shortcut, I'm going to select this one and do Control J, and that's going to duplicate it. And now I can do Control T to make this smaller. I can put it up here, and then I'll do the same thing. I have to commit to it, and then I want to get my wheel, and I'll do Control J, and then V for the move tool, move that one out. I can bring it up here, Control T, make it smaller. All right, now what if I wanted to flip something around? Okay, I'm just going to commit to that. And so I'm doing this very quickly, but I would want to go in and I would probably erase that little bit you see here so that the wheel really looks like it's right inside this rim here. Okay, so if I want to flip something, I'm going to do Control J here and duplicate that. And then I'll go over to Edit, Transform, Flip horizontally, and now I have it going in the other direction. Okay, so it just happened to be that the ones that I picked all have kind of a similar color tone. But what if they all had different colors? Some were kind of black and white, and some had looked like they were from the old photographs, and some were more new, and they had these different color tones. It's really hard to make it look like it's a single believable object, like a single object, if they all have these different colors. So one thing you may want to consider doing is adding an adjustment layer that's going to be above all of your layers. So I talked about this in the very first video. Remember, I talked about this is one option of a way that you could make your videos black and white. So I'm going to go to what I call the black and white cookie. It's down here at the bottom. And let's just say, for example, I'm going to choose a photo filter. So go ahead and feel free to experiment with any of these. It's all completely non-destructive. I'll choose photo filter, and something like a warming filter could be interesting. But you see, this is coming in on its own layer, and as long as I have that layer on top of all the other ones, it's going to give all of the layers underneath that same effect. So maybe warming, or maybe I want to try a cooling filter, so everything has kind of the same kind of blue tone. Or I could just make everything black and white. So maybe instead of this one, if I don't like this layer, I can throw it in the trash can. And I'm going to say delete. So I could try the black and white option, for example. And so now everything is kind of black and white, or I could let things have different levels of black and white. Okay, now lastly, I don't really like the way that looks, so I'm going to turn that off. Let's try to avoid just a pure white background. Try to get something that's on the background that helps ground this. So maybe if I found a landscape, or if I found a building to put this on top of, or at least, if nothing else, try to put in a texture. So I think I have some textures open here, and I again want something that is quite large. Just in case it's not clear of where did I get this size of 2000 by 2500. So I'm going to go up to image, image size, and in inches this is an 8 by 10, but in pixels, I have to turn resample on even though I'm not going to do anything. In pixels it's 2500 by 2000. So that's where I got that number. So if you ever create something in inches and you want to know how many pixels that is, just go up, turn resample on, switch it to pixels, and then you can see. Now I'm just canceling because I didn't really want to do anything. So I would need to have something pretty large. This is very large, 6000 pixels. I'm just going to take something like this, and again, view image, so I'm getting the full size, click until I no longer have the plus sign, right click, copy image, go to my Photoshop file, and I'm going to paste it directly in. Control V. It's not pasting. Might just have a, there we go. and I have to move that layer all the way down to the bottom, obviously. Okay, and so now is the moment of truth where I can see, oh, I didn't do such a good job on all my selections. Incidentally, if you turn in a project and it has a white background, this is what I'll do. I create a background layer, or a layer, and I put it on the bottom. I fill it with a solid color, and I will check just to see how well you made your selections. So if I saw something like this, I'd write back to you and say, you got to go in and check your selections. So what I need to do is click on to get that layer active. That's my layer 6. And it would be really nice if I was labeling my layers. So I'll call this Ivy. And I need to go and continue deselecting that white. And just do that in small steps until it's all deselected. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some good guidelines, some tips. Just remember, explore under Edit, Transform. There's some other things that are interesting too, such as perspective and distort. But when you're looking for images from the beginning, try to get them in the correct perspective that you already want, because there's only so much you can do in Photoshop. All right, have fun with the project.